A property owner checks his Airbnb dashboard. He refreshes the page 3 times, 4 times. He sees a stunning number. Bookings are down 43% from last year. In July, his calendar should be packed. But there's only an icy emptiness left. Impossible. July is usually always booked. What he's experiencing makes no sense. Especially when you know what Airbnb has become, an $85 billion cash machine on the stock market. Over 150 million users, millions of listings in most cities worldwide, and a marketing force that dominates. For more than a decade, the platform has offered property owners a ticket to financial independence. It challenged hotel chains, reshaped global tourism, and made its name into a verb. We don't just rent an apartment anymore, we Airbnb it. Yet beneath the success lies another reality. Apartments trashed by party travelers, insurance that pays out too late or not enough. Hosts ruined in a single night because a guest turned their home into an illegal nightclub.
I had 6 Airbnbs and I closed all of them down, but this is what I went through, okay?
And I'm finished with Airbnb and selling my properties. Psych, but being an Airbnb host is getting tough.
I'm leaving Airbnb, it just isn't worth it anymore.
Today, this giant has turned on those who fed it. The rules are changing, incomes are collapsing, and those who relied on Airbnb to make a living are discovering that they're just a replaceable link in the machine. So how did an empire built on the promise of freedom become a force that strangles its own allies? Why are cities around the world declaring war? And above all, is it already too late to save this model? Hi, T-Mindset, I hope you're doing well. Today we explore Airbnb's journey from its improvised start and remarkable growth to the challenges now threatening its future. A true economic thriller. And as always, we'll finish with the business mindset lessons. The toughest, but also the most useful to remember for any entrepreneur who wants to get started. Thanks to Aeronautique 2423 for suggesting this idea. And as usual, feel free to tell me in the comments what you want to see on the channel. By the way, a huge thank you to all the longtime followers who have been here since the 10,000 mark, as well as to the new members of the EM community. We just hit 500,000 subscribers, and I know many of you are eager to share. So we thought about it with the rest of the team. And to thank you, we're soon going to choose someone whom I will personally help to get started on YouTube. The announcement will be coming soon, so stay tuned. All right, let's get started with the story of Airbnb. Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia can't afford their rent. They inflate 3 air mattresses in their living room, take photos, and post them on a makeshift website. Air bed and breakfast, a bed, a breakfast, and the hope of making a little money to get by.
We had no beds, but Joe had 3 air beds. We took them from the closet and called it airbedandbreakfast.com. We earned enough to pay rent, but more importantly, we became friends with these 3 people who stayed with us for a week.
What started out looking like a student project is going to become the biggest accommodation company in the world. At first, no one believes. Investors mock it. Who would sleep at a stranger's place? The company nearly dies. Chesky and Gebbia improvise. In the 2008 presidential election, they made collector cereal boxes, Obama O's and Captain McCain's. They sell 800 of them and raise $30,000, which allows them to save their startup.
We have a strange story about raising money. We had a quirky idea to sell collectible breakfast cereal. Barack Obama and John McCain are both running for president. We thought, the breakfast isn't selling, we're a bed and breakfast, we're not selling beds, maybe we can sell breakfast. We began selling a collectible Barack Obama-themed cereal called Obama O's, similar to Cheerios, and marketed it as the breakfast of change. And we learned that John McCain was a captain in the Navy, so we called it Captain McCain's, a maverick enemy bite. And we made these really funny-looking cereal boxes. We actually ended up selling $30,000 worth of collectible breakfast cereal, and that was actually how we originally funded it.
A few months later, they joined the Y Combinator Accelerator. Paul Graham, the founder, agreed to fund them for a simple reason. They had nothing but wouldn't give up. Entrepreneurs, you know what you have to do. In 15 years, Airbnb surpassed the market capitalization of century-old hotel groups. When it went public in late 2020, the platform was valued at nearly $87 billion, surpassing Marriott, Hilton, and Intercontinental combined.
I keep thinking it's $100 billion market cap for a company without any assets. I know we went over this earlier, that it's now valued much, much higher than the big hotel chains, but there's a key part of that S1 that I keep going back to, and that's that 90% of Airbnb's traffic comes organically.
The brand is known everywhere. Travelers talk about Airbnb the way people say Google. Most importantly, the platform doesn't own any of the properties it rents. A true Uber of real estate. By the way, if you're interested in the story, I talked about it recently on the channel. A company that sells what it doesn't own. It's every entrepreneur's dream. Hey, dropshippers, I see you raising your hands. Zero inventory, zero real estate, just connecting people and taking a percentage on each booking. The numbers are staggering, over 150 million users, 7 million plus listings in 220 countries, and up to $6 billion in yearly revenue. For property owners, it's a revolution. Have an empty apartment? Airbnb fills it. Want extra cash? Airbnb connects you globally. For many, it becomes more than extra income. It's a new profession, professional host. Some expand from one apartment to 10, 20, or even 30. This is known as the Airbnb snowball effect, a cycle where demand brings more supply and supply drives more demand. But amid this rapid expansion, problems are emerging. This once unbeatable model is starting to crack. Tourist cities are suffocating. Residents can no longer find housing, and soon the first brakes will be applied. What no one knows yet at this point is that this virtuous circle is about to close in on its creators. As you know, everyone benefited at first. Travelers paid less than at a hotel, owners earned more than with a regular rental, and Airbnb quietly took its commission from each transaction. But this rapid success triggered a chain reaction. In city centers, thousands of apartments were turned into tourist buildings, which reduced the availability for residents. The disturbances multiplied. Neighborhoods gradually lost their local soul as they adapted to mass tourist consumption, and the local fabric slowly unraveled. Naturally, the hoteliers didn't just watch. They denounced what they saw as unfair competition. They were still under stricter regulations than Airbnb, so the cities prepared a counterattack, and it would be massive.
Economy. With a new major metropolis targeting short-term rental platforms like Airbnb, now New York City is taking action against short-term rentals. So why such a decision when hotels there have often become unaffordable?
After complaints from residents and the surge in rents, the city requires mandatory registration and bans most stays under 30 days without hosts present. This reduces the number of legal listings. New York drops out of the top 10 home-sharing destinations, causing listings to collapse.
It's been nearly 2 years since the city's short-term rental law went into effect, requiring rental hosts to register with the city. The law also says if you're renting out an entire apartment, it must be for 30 days or more and limited to 2 guests.
Here, the City Hall announces a radical plan. Stop renewing licenses for the 10,101 tourist apartments by November 2028 to return the housing to residents. The measure is then confirmed by the Spanish courts in 2025. Barcelona is one of the cities most affected by Airbnb mania and over-tourism.
Look, this is the apartment where I lived with my family since 2016. Last year, the landlord evicted us to convert the apartments into tourist rentals.
I admit I was part of the problem, since I love visiting the city many times. By booking on Airbnb, without realizing the impact on the lives of local people. Other cities like Amsterdam since 2019 limit primary residences to 30 nights per year. This caused short Airbnb stays to drop about 54% from 2019 to 2024. And it's not just the law, the market itself is cracking. Why? Because there's an oversupply. After COVID, too many hosts joined at once, causing a price war. I'll explain more about this later. Next, the traveler experience has deteriorated. Rising cleaning fees and strict cancellations drove people back to hotels. When they become competitive again and host costs surge, with cleaning, laundry, management time, local taxes, and compliance, this led to shrinking profit margins. In some cities, owners are cutting prices daily, eliminating their profit margins. By the way, if you rent out on Airbnb, I would really like to hear about your experience in the comments.
What the real estate gurus won't tell you is that Airbnb profits have plummeted nearly 40% in cities like Phoenix, Austin, and Myrtle Beach in just 1 year. In Palm Beach County, Florida, for instance, Airbnb profits are substantially lower than they were just a couple years ago.
In just a few years, the company's image has shifted. Airbnb has shifted from a disruptive upstart to a giant criticized for hurting hosts and draining city centers. For many people who built their lives around this source of income, it's becoming a nightmare. Fewer bookings, more restrictions, more competition, and skyrocketing expenses. But what no one realizes yet is that the danger doesn't just come from outside, it also comes from within. For over a decade, Airbnb has promoted itself as an ally and partner to hosts, helping them gain financial independence. A platform that once opened the world to you, but something changed in 2022. It's not about the cities or travelers, but about Airbnb itself. The company is going to make a clean cut in the owner's business model. The first blow is the commissions. Service fees are rising quietly. Free options, enhanced photo visibility, and badges are now paid features. A host who used to earn €100 in 2018 now only receives 85 or even less. Sometimes service and cleaning fees together make up over 40% of the traveler's price. So the host now pays more to keep their previous spot. The second blow is the algorithm. Where originally anyone could list their apartment and receive bookings, Airbnb is now starting to favor professional listings. Retouched photos, automatically calibrated prices, almost hotel-like services. As a result, small hosts are gradually disappearing from the first pages, and multi-property owners with 20 or 30 apartments are taking it all. The third blow, and perhaps the one that most betrayed Airbnb's original idea, is standardization. Given what we've seen, Airbnb is increasingly moving toward a hotel-like model. Automated check-in, required fees, impersonal contact. The original strengths of a collaborative economy, human connection, meeting people, authenticity, are disappearing. As if the income drop wasn't enough. Another nightmare for hosts. Travelers who leave behind destroyed apartments, wild parties, thousands of euros in damages. Airbnb promises a high guarantee, but reimbursements are often slow, partial, or missing. Some owners say they lost it all overnight.
So many people blocking the front door, and when the partiers left, they left a mess that he had to clean.
Not only did they throw chewing gum on the floor, I had to remove it.
For the historic host, the message is harsh. Airbnb is no longer their partner. They are now just a number in an Excel spreadsheet, and their independence is gone, replaced by a system where only the biggest survive. For travelers, staying is no longer cheaper than hotels. Prices are rising, and cleaning fees can hit €100 for a weekend. Some hosts have absurd rules like washing sheets, taking out trash, and putting away dishes, or you risk losing your deposit. That's the paradox. What was supposed to be a human and flexible alternative to hotels ended up becoming more expensive, more rigid, and more impersonal. Airbnb is no longer a movement. It's an $85 billion multinational that puts its profits above all else, even if it means sacrificing its longtime hosts and disappointing its travelers. But with capitalism at play, following all the controversies, the company intends to respond. We might ask, must Airbnb abandon its original dream to maintain big profits, or can it still reinvent itself? The platform is not blind. Declining bookings, new regulations, and host frustration forced Brian Chesky and his team to respond. Airbnb had no choice anymore. The company had to reinvent itself or disappear. The pandemic hits. In just a few weeks, revenue drops by 80%. The open spaces are empty, a quarter of the staff laid off. This is the turning point. Transform or die.
Travel as you knew it is gone. You'll never see it again. I'll just say that. And I think business travel is really going to be hit for a while. Many people realize meetings can be held on Zoom and are rethinking conventions. They'll also rediscover the outdoors.
You doubt it? Airbnb picked the second option. But not as we expected. Long stays are rising, with over a fifth of bookings lasting more than 28 days. The company aims to be a platform for digital nomads, remote work, and stability. Experiences are multiplying. It's now about more than beds. Workshops, tours, cooking classes. Every trip should be an Airbnb adventure. The algorithm is changing too. Now it highlights other pros. Super hosts, multiple apartments, premium service, and reliability. But small individual owners are pushed out. The hidden fees? A scandal that damaged the reputation. Airbnb responded, and now the total price is displayed right from the search. Trust appears restored. With cities, Airbnb now takes a more active stance. The platform deploys lobbyists, negotiates taxes, and signs deals. Mission accomplished, Airbnb reinvented itself, but ended up resembling what it once opposed. More profitable, more standardized, more institutionalized, but less human, less spontaneous, less like Airbnb. And as promised, my friends, here are the lessons we can learn from this story. Those of a company that revolutionized an industry that hadn't changed in decades. The first is that opportunity often arises from a personal need. 3 air mattresses, a makeshift website, and the instinct to survive. That's what launched Airbnb. Never underestimate a shaky idea if it meets a real need. The second thing is that the entrepreneur has to choose, survive or stay true. Chesky chose to save Airbnb, even if it meant losing some of its DNA. A brutal question. Are you ready to betray your dream so it can keep existing? The third is that revolutions become institutions. Airbnb aimed to disrupt hotels, but ended up resembling them. In business, rebels often end up as kings, but kings they had sworn to fight. A bit like Klarna. This company, claiming to ease life and daily struggles, ended up trapping a whole generation in a new kind of snare. The one of paying in installments, which turned into an unbearable burden, as you can see in the video that's showing.